Today, I'm reviewing a 12-hour flight from London to Bangkok in EVA Air's economy class on board their Boeing 777-300. Taiwan's second biggest airline and rated by many to be one of the top 10 airlines in the world, we'll see whether they're worth the high price tag and how they compare to some other excellent Asian airlines. Also, apparently their name is pronounced EVA Air, not EVA or AVA, so that's what I'll be saying for the rest of the video. And maybe you're also wondering, why does this Taiwanese airline fly from London to Bangkok, two countries which famously aren't Taiwan? Well, it does actually continue on to Taipei after stopping in Bangkok, and I think the reason is a combination of the fact that there isn't enough demand for a direct London to Taipei flight, combined with Bangkok being a very popular destination, so EVA can guarantee their plane is full. Also, since Russian airspace has been closed, it regularly takes about 15 hours to fly from Taipei to London non-stop. So they probably save on fuel by stopping in Bangkok too. Meanwhile, I arrive at Heathrow Terminal 2 about 3.5 hours early, so check-in wasn't busy at all. And they have self-service bag drop, so I didn't actually have any human interaction at all when checking in. But of course there are still plenty of staff around to help if needed. Security was fast as always at Heathrow, and I was through in about 5 minutes. Though I was travelling with my brother today and he had to wait about 10 more minutes as there was a big build-up of people having their bag inspected. Also, of the 4 terminals at Heathrow, Terminal 2 is probably my favourite. It's one of the few airport terminals in the UK which doesn't force you to go through miles of duty-free shops to reach the main area, plus the terminal feels very spacious with plenty of seats. So overall, I think it's Heathrow Airport's best terminal for sure. Another reason I like Heathrow Terminal 2 is you get some great views of the rest of the airport. Here we have a Loganair ATR 42 heading to Dundee, and this is probably the smallest aircraft that flies to Heathrow. And a great view of the South Runway and Terminal 4 in the background too. And here we have a cafe Boeing 747-300, the second biggest aircraft that flies at Heathrow. After looking in some shops, we headed over to the satellite terminal where our flight was departing from today, and that involves a relatively long walk down an underground tunnel. Pretty much every long-haul flight from this terminal will be from these gates, while short-haul flights generally leave from the main building. The satellite building is a nice, spacious and bright area with lots of big aircraft to see. Also very close to the main runway, so you can do some more plane spotting here, especially with the nice sunset we had today. I also saw this Singapore Airlines A380 parked at exactly the same gate as when I reviewed it 3 years ago. Review in the description below. Also this Thai Airways 777 heading back to Bangkok, taking the exact same route as us today. Now we've gotten this far into the video, but you might find yourself wondering, who even are EVA Air? Started by Taiwan's Evergreen Line, one of the world's largest shipping companies in 1989 to compete against Taiwan's state carrier, China Airlines, they are now the country's second biggest airline, and on top of just being an airline, they do engineering services for other airlines and have a global cargo network to complement the shipping operation. But maybe best of all, they have a bunch of Hello Kitty painted planes. Now say what you will about Hello Kitty, but I appreciate an airline that makes bold design choices. They also have a pretty interesting story around the family in charge of the company and competition with Starlux Airlines, Taiwan's third biggest airline, but I won't explain it here as it's too long, so watch this video from Flight Formula instead, if you're interested. Our plane here is a 9-year-old Boeing 777-300ER registered B16737, and has around 323 to 353 seats depending on the variant. Also, first time I've seen this, since I was sat in an exit row seat today, they called me up to the desk and made me read an exit seat safety card, so good to see they take safety seriously, I guess. After confirming I understood the safety procedures, they let me on board. But before we step on board, here are the stats and route for today's flight, where we actually ended up departing early, a first for me at Heathrow, before taking the usual route over the Caucasus, skirting around Iran, and landing in Bangkok 36 minutes ahead of schedule, making for a very smooth flight. Here's the seat map for this plane, so pause if you're interested. I chose seat 60K, an exit row seat, which costs a whopping £140 extra for this single flight. But as I rapidly approach the age of 30, I've decided that an old man like me needs a bit of extra comfort, so it's worth it in my eyes. A very underrated feature of EVA Air is that you can look around all of their planes on Google Maps, so you can see where the best place to sit is, and as you'll see in a moment, if I'd looked at this before flying, I would have known that my seat had no window, which was slightly annoying considering I'm making this review. Stepping on board, we get greeted by the crew, and get the chance to walk through business and premium economy to see what we're missing out on. EVA Air were actually the first airline in the world to start offering premium economy, and have just released this revamped premium seat on their 787s, so hopefully I'll get a chance to review that at some point in the future. For now though, we head to the second economy cabin, where I'm sitting in seat 60K. An exit row with plenty of space, as you can see, and turns out you get an extra cushion if you're sitting in the front, so that was a bonus too. Annoyingly, the bulk of the door kind of limited my legroom here, and that, combined with the lack of window you see now, makes me recommend either the middle or aisle seat if you plan on getting an exit row seat. I could just about look out of the window, but only if I turned my whole body around. You get the standard EVA pillow and a larger reserved seat pillow, a large fleece blanket, also these very colourful earbuds, adjustable leather headrest, and my brother wanted to feature in the video too, so here he is. The only other thing at the seat is their shop magazine, which actually I quite liked as they have an insane amount of EVA branded merch you can buy, and I like any airline that puts a lot of effort into things like that. I was very tempted to buy one of these models. Also, here's the TV. It pops out since it's an exit row and it's a good size. As we push back, the safety video started, so here's a little extract from that.
It's positioned to protect yourself. 紧急疏散时，禁止携带任何行李，并脱掉高跟鞋。During an evacuation, leave your baggage behind and remove high-heeled shoes. Safety is the beginning of a perfect journey. We wish you a wonderful experience.
And it was 9:30 at this point, so nothing to see out of the window. So here's just a quick shot of the takeoff. The great feature of EVA's economy is you can read the full menu on the TV. Also, right before service, they hand out a physical menu card. Very appreciated, as it stops you having to guess what drinks they have. Like without the menu, I never would have known that they serve Calpis water, which I ended up getting, and looks like this. For the main meal, served about an hour after takeoff, I got prawns with rice and asparagus. And no exaggeration, but this was probably the best meal I've ever had in economy. Big juicy prawns, fresh vegetables, well cooked rice, and a delicious sweet and sour sauce. You also get fruit, a small starter which was just fine, warm bread, and butter which had actually been softened. And a dessert too. Then there's also metal cutlery, an antibacterial wipe, and even a bit of dental floss. So overall, a very tasty and generous meal service. And if you end up flying them, you'll see that every meal they offer one Western and one Chinese option. This one being the Chinese. Then, after clearing the trays, they serve tea or coffee. Now onto the IFE system, and it's just fine. EVA is a Taiwanese airline and not mainland Chinese, so the content selection is quite good in comparison. It's still definitely a bit lacking compared to many Western or Middle Eastern airlines, and even regional competitors like Cathay Pacific, who I think actually have the best in-flight entertainment system in the world. You do still get plenty of TV shows, games and music to choose from, so it's fine. And the screen is a good size too. Also, another big positive is that they have basic free Wi-Fi throughout the flight. Though I did find it a bit odd that you either take the free basic access or pay $40 for full speed access. There's no middle option, which most airlines would offer. They did serve a sandwich mid-flight, but I ended up sleeping through that, so instead just ended up picking up this packet of snacks, drink and a toothbrush in the galley. And in total, I slept for about 7 or 8 hours of this flight, so I only woke up for breakfast about 2 hours before landing. Now for breakfast, here's the menu cards they hand out. I got the Chinese option again of braised pork, belly and rice, and this main was just as good as the first, plus more warm bread and fresh fruit. Only flaw is that the yogurt wasn't great, it was more like overnight oats, which I'm not a fan of. The last nice touch to note was that they have this very nice tea-scented toiletries in the toilet, which kept the loos smelling fresh throughout the flight. But unlike China Airlines, they don't play relaxing music in the toilet, and you can find my 14-hour flight review of China Airlines in the description below. And that's about it for this flight, so here's our slightly bumpy descent and landing into Bangkok.
Opening of the compartment to avoid Beijing falling out.
So now as we arrive at Bangkok Suvarnabhumi Airport, it's time for my final thoughts. EVA Air are definitely a premium airline and deserve their ranking as a 5-star Skytrax airline. The food was definitely the highlight, and I sneakily checked in the galley and it was loaded in Taipei, so definitely representative of EVA food in general. The seat is good, but doesn't exactly stand out from similar airlines, and non-exit row seats have 32 inches of legroom, which is pretty standard. Service from the crew was fantastic too, and I haven't mentioned up until this point, but it felt like they were very accommodating and went the extra mile. And lastly, the price, it was quite expensive, but on this route at least the same as Thai Airways. And I feel EVA are slightly better overall than Thai Airways, so it's not overpriced. Thanks to all that, I'll give them a score of 82.5% on this flight. And on my overall airline tier list, I would give them a 9 out of 10. Comparable to the big 3 Middle Eastern airlines, but slightly behind Singapore and Cathay Pacific. But that is just based off my personal experience, so take it with a pinch of salt. Now here's a quick preview of my next video, a 13-hour flight from Hanoi to London with Vietnam Airlines. A bit underwhelming compared to EVA Air, but still a good airline in my opinion. So like and subscribe to stay up to date with that, and future reviews including Bangkok Airways, Air Cambodia and the Raffles Hotel Siem Reap to name a few. And leave a comment if you enjoyed the video or have any questions. Thanks for watching and goodbye.